Protests have erupted across the U.S. in response to the killing of George Floyd by police. Many protesters have been tear-gassed or hit with rubber bullets. Thousands have been arrested. The stunning arrest of a CNN correspondent while covering the aftermath of protests in Minneapolis has drawn widespread criticism. But that was only the first major instance in what has now become a disturbing trend over the past few days.
I'm pressed!
As we see, that camera person just got shot.
And it's something that's more often seen in authoritarian regimes than in the U.S. Journalists covering the protests throughout the U.S. are increasingly finding themselves deliberately targeted by police with tear gas, rubber bullets,
Damn it!
pepper spray, or outright arrest. A running tally from our partners at Bellingcat has tracked over 100 cases of police abuse against journalists in the U.S. over the past few days. In this video, we're looking at video feeds, satellite imagery, and social media to break down the details of how police have been targeting the press. The first incident we'll look at takes place here, at the intersection of Nicollet and Franklin Ave in Minneapolis, around half an hour past the citywide curfew on Saturday. In the videos, as a column of protesters makes its way toward downtown Minneapolis, a convoy of police vehicles suddenly arrives and blocks the street, effectively splitting the protesters in two. A little over 30 seconds after they arrive, tear gas, rubber bullets, and at least one flashbang are all used as protesters scatter. WCCO cameraman Tom Aviles is positioned on the north side of the intersection. He's almost immediately struck by a less lethal round before retreating to a building corner. Despite identifying himself as press and wearing his credentials, he is first told by an approaching policeman to leave.
Go! Where do I go? I'm with WCCO!
He asks where to go, but isn't told anywhere specific. He is then told to get on the ground and subsequently arrested. There are two more groups of journalists on the south side of the intersection. A reporter and cameraman from WCCO and an MSNBC crew with reporter Ali Velshi. Both are forced to move back as tear gas is fired in their direction. By this point, the street is mostly clear of protesters. Eventually, Velshi is interrupted while continuing his reporting and says he was hit in the leg by a rubber bullet.
Yeah, I got hit. Hold on.
The next morning, he tells MSNBC he was fired at again by a new group of police officers.
We yelled, "We're media." They responded, "We don't care," and they opened fire a second time.
A few blocks south of that, a group of journalists are filming a line of state police set up just to the south of the city's 5th Precinct building. The officers warn a crowd of protesters that they're violating curfew.
You are in violation of Minneapolis City Ordinance for curfew violation. Please disperse or you will be arrested.
Then, the line starts moving forward, firing tear gas as it goes. The protesters retreat back, but the reporters stay huddled against the wall. In order to force them to move, the police use pepper spray. The journalists then flee north and attempt to set up another staging spot on the street corner across from the protests. Police force them out of this location too.
What do you want me to do with this?
LA Times reporter Molly Hennessy Fisk is hit by a tear gas canister during the scuffle and can be seen scaling a wall to escape in a video from KSTP, whose reporters were also caught up in the tear gas. She ends up taking refuge in a nearby apartment building where she records this video.
We identified ourselves as press, and they fired tear gas canisters on us at point blank range. I got hit in the leg. I'll post a photo of that. I just wanted to get that on the record.
On the opposite side of the street, CNN cameras capture the same police advance. The network timestamps this footage at 8:45 local time. As before, reporters are forced to scatter under a hail of tear gas.
We gotta move back, fellas. Come on, come on.
One of the fleeing reporters is Omar Jimenez, the same CNN journalist who was arrested by police the day before. While this is happening, an MSNBC reporter and his crew are also forced to move back by police, in this case through a parking lot nearby. As the police push them back, a flashbang goes off in the area where they're being pushed.
Let's go.
These are only a few incidents in a single city. Protests have sprung up all throughout the United States, and along with them, assaults against members of the press. Not all are intentional, but in many cases, the journalists are well marked with press vests or video equipment. And while citywide curfew orders generally exempt members of the media, police have made little distinction between protesters and journalists and have generally created a dangerous environment for a free press.
What the?